right, y'all.
No, because I didn't read his bio and I feel like I did him a disservice. So I just. All right, next we have brother AP. He is our executive producer of our media team, and I just kind of want to read his bio for him. AP, I don't know why you put Aspire in. That's crazy. We're going to take that out. AP is an executive film producer, videographer, and editor for the ABS media team, all the way from Abilene, Texas. He studied communication and mass media at Angelo State, dropping out and leaving a football scholarship to pursue his passion for filmmaking and helping people express their stories visually. He started filming music videos and short vlogs around campus and began building custom cabinets and filming that process. He then discovered Brother Ben X and started listening to the Brother Ben X podcast, sent over his portfolio, and the rest is history.
Hi, brother. That's me. Thanks, y'all. You go to the next slide. All right, so I got the nickname Story from Jake because I obviously tell stories. So I'm gonna break that down for y'all. So the first thing is a definition. What is a story? A story is a narrative, either true or fictitious, in prose or verse, designed to interest or amuse or instruct the hearer or the reader. A story is conducted into a 3-act narrative, or they also call it like an arc. So you got the beginning, you got the middle, and you have the end. But amongst your story, you have subcomponents, which is your character, and you also, the character has to be going through something. So you have the problem, your conflict, the protagonist, and your antagonist, which is the conflict, as I already put in quotations. But your internal conflict is something that they're battling, whether it's emotions, the job, just something that they're battling internal. And external is the things like the worldly blocks that's out there, social media, friends, people, places, and things like that. And then lastly, we have the plot, which a lot of people confuse story and plot. But they're not the same thing. You can go. A plot is a series of events arranged deliberately so to reveal as dramatic, thematic, and emotional significance. A plot and a story is not the same. And for an example, I'm going to read y'all the story of Alexander and the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. So basically, the story is Alexander is a young boy who had a terrible day. And he just kept going through a series of events and it made him want to move at the end of the day. Long story short, at the end, his mom just told him that some days are just like that. And that's just a story. It was born. It had no emotional significance and nothing dramatic was happening. Now I'm going to read you the plot of the story. Forgive me for the eye contact. I'm not making much of it anyways, but still. Here's the plot. Alexander woke up with gum in his hair. He tripped over a skateboard. He dropped his favorite sweater in the sink, and right away he knew it was going to be a bad day. And he was right. He woke up. He didn't have a prize in a cereal box like his siblings had. He got stuck in the middle of the seat on the way to school after mentioning that he had car sickness and no one was listening. When he got to school, his best friend ditched him. He had no dessert in his lunchbox, and then that's just school. After school, he had to get a cavity filled at the dentist, and then the door slammed on his foot. When he got there, his brother called him a crybaby, pushed him in the mud, and when he tried telling people he was having a very bad day, again, nobody was listening to him. I mean, this kid was really like ready to move to Alaska or something like that. So on top of that, the shoe store didn't have his shoe size. He was wearing pajamas that he didn't like. He accidentally trashed his dad's office. He had lima beans for dinner and his bath was too hot. And then the cat wanted to sleep in the room with him and not his brother. Like he really, really wanted to move to Alaska. And you know what his mom told him at the end of the day? She said, some days are like that, even in Alaska. Y'all see the difference between a plot and a story? You can go to the next slide. It introduced the protagonist and the antagonist, which was life in general, which is stuff that was happening with him. That was conflict with internal and external. Each page moved the story along in a meaningful way, where it was just a series of events that took place in order, one after another, like a cinematic cut. So when you're telling your story, you want to ask yourself, which is on the next slide, when you're editing, does it make sense when you're putting clips on top of each other or back? If it doesn't add up to the story or make sense, does it add to the character development? And if not, then you just trash it. And also the plot helps you properly deliver the emotion, because a lot of us related to when I went in detail about him having a bad day, him getting gum in his hair, et cetera, et cetera. And then lastly, when you end in your story, you want to close the circle And the ending should remind the readers of the beginning by returning to an important place or reintroducing a key character. And that's just in simple stories. When it comes to cliffhangers, you want to introduce a new character or a subplot. That's more like with movies that y'all hate. When it ends like that, y'all just be on the edge of your seat, just ready for it to, and nothing happens. And again, like Brother Ben touched on, when it comes to creating content, what makes a story important is because he touching on pain points. And you also want to hit on emotions. Emotion is the number one thing you want to keep in mind when you editing, because we emotional people, whether we want to admit it or not. A lot of us make emotional based decisions. Back to the clip. Ask yourself, does the story add or take away? If it doesn't add to the character development, it has to go. And lastly, use sound design, because sound puts you in the world of the viewer. Whether it's a thriller music, you know, like Jaws, when you hear the dun-dun, it kind of puts you in there. There's a suspense. So not lastly, but a good story always wins. So if y'all attach these in that order, you'll win. Thank y'all.